right, so it is, I'm sorry, my clock is, it is, I think, 5:01.
All right.
And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Dr. Thomas, if you would conduct roll call for us.
Yes, ma'am. I had to unmute. I am sorry. Okay, Mr. Davis. Miss Davis. Mrs. Gallagher. Dr. Yeager.
Here.
Dr. Dykeman.
Here.
Dr. Anderson. Dr. Gant.
Here.
Attorney Hull. And Dr. Maddox.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Palmer, do we have a quorum?
I think we had 4. We have Dr. Yeager, Dr. Dykeman, Dr. Gant. Who was our 4th?
Ms. Davis.
Okay, Ms. Davis, I thought I heard you here. So that does not give us a quorum, does it? We're missing one.
I don't think we have to have a,
We did discuss that before you arrived, Dr. Gant, and Attorney Pruitt was pleased that we have had now 2 with the quorum and said we could move forward. Is that correct, Attorney Pruitt?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. We'll move forward to item number 2, and that is to amend or adopt the agenda. The floor is open.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Yeager and a second by Dr. Dykeman. Are there any questions or is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the agenda before us, if you would say yes and raise your hands.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, any opposed, the same sign. Okay, so that motion carries. Our agenda is what's before us. We'll move forward to item 3, which is our millage rate hearing. Dr. Thomas. And Mr. Schoeneman.
Yes, ma'am. This evening, we have Mr. Schoeneman here with us to present our millage rate so that we can then move forward with millage rate discussions at our upcoming board meetings. So we have already had budget presentations, 2 of those earlier, combined with our millage rate hearings. And this afternoon, we are just doing the millage rate portion. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Schoeneman.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas and Dr. Gant. Like Dr. Thomas had mentioned, this is the 3rd and final millage rate hearing. We are not going to do the budget presentation tonight. We're just going to do the millage rate hearing. And the way that I have set this meeting up, we'll go through the 4 or 5 slides that we have. And at the end, I have set it up so we can give a 3-minute timer for anybody that wants to make a comment. If we don't have anybody that's online right now that would like to make a comment, we can then turn it over to the board and see if you guys have any last remaining questions before we close this up. Both the millage rate and the budget are on the consent agenda tonight, and it will be voted on next week at the 10th regular session board meeting. So just a reminder, the millage rate, it is currently tentatively set at 20 mills, and that was set at the May 13th board meeting. And there's no change in the millage rate from FY20, and it has been at 20 mills and set at 20 mills and consistent at 20 mills for at least 10 years. So the reassessment of properties produced a property tax increase this year. The existing properties that were reassessed, we received an increase in net value across the digest of 5.98%. And setting the millage rate at 20 mills, we're going to receive additional revenue from that reassessment growth, which then triggers these meetings that we are required to have. So in order to have no increase whatsoever, the rollback rate would be 18.8 mills or 18.872 mills, which would be 1.128 mils less than what we have tentatively set the millage rate at. Just the nature of setting the millage rate, when we set it at 20 mils, the other piece to this equation is the value of the properties, and the homeowner properties, and they can increase from year to year or decrease. So some property owners will see an increase, some may see a smaller increase, some may actually see a decrease. It all depends on what the assessed value of their property is from one year to the next. Here's a visual of the rise and decline and rise again of our overall tax digest. Between 2020 and 2021 in orange, we have seen a growth from about 4.5 billion in a net digest all the way up to 4.9 billion. That growth, it's made up of two components. We already discussed the reassessment growth that's in blue. The other component to that growth is just the sheer new properties, new homes, anything that wasn't part of the digest in 2020, that's your growth in 2021. And that doesn't go into the calculation for a tax increase. It's only the reassessment on existing properties. Here's a matrix of our last 6 years. You can see from tax year 2016 or fiscal year 17, our millage rate was set at 20 and it stayed consistently at 20 for all 6 of those years, and it goes past at least 5 years before that. The value of 1 mil from 2016, it was at $3.6 million. And as our tax digest has grown, so has the value of that mill. So now instead of 1 mil at $3.6 million, we're looking at receiving roughly $4.9 million for each mill that we assess. So if you just do the math and you multiply across, you can see that for 2021, we're looking at a total school tax assessment of $98.1 million. Here's our 5-year history of the digest, the gross exemptions, the net digest, what we've set our millage rate at. And then down there at the bottom, you can see whether or not the taxes increased or decreased accordingly. And so the only year, I don't see any decrease from 2016 on, only growth. And so each year we have seen a net tax increase, which have triggered these exact meetings that we're having tonight. And that concludes this section of the millage rate hearings. Lisa, do you know if we have anybody else on the call with us this evening?
I don't see anyone on,
Okay.
and I don't have any. I'll check the email one more time just to make sure no one's emailed. I have no emails either.
Okay. Then I'll open the floor to any board members if you have any remaining questions before it's on the agenda for tonight. It may or may not get pulled off the agenda to be voted on the 10th at the regular scheduled board meeting. So if you have any remaining questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
I have a quick one, Byron. This is Tish.
Okay.
Have we looked around the counties around us to see, are they using the same 20 mil rate, or are they lower than us? I know 20 is the maximum.
I will be happy to put that information together. I don't have that on hand. I live in Oconee County, and I know that the millage rate is not set at 20. It's less than that. I think it's somewhere in the range of 16 to 17. Dr. Thomas, I don't know if you can speak to what surrounding counties, or maybe Mike, if you have any knowledge.
It's under 20 in Madison and Oconee. I know those two.
Okay. So
That's
Dr.
fine.
Yeager, I'll be happy to put that question out to our CFO roundtable group and get an answer to you.
Yeah, sorry for not sending that in advance. It was just a off the top of my head question.
I'm sorry, I meant to say it's under 20 in Madison and Walton, and you already said Oconee. So yeah. So those three we know are lower.
Thank you.
Dr. Gant, I believe that concludes the third and final millage rate hearing.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no more questions, we will move forward to our last item, and that is adjournment. The floor is open for a motion.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, so Ms. Davis made the motion and Dr. Yeager made the second. I don't see that there are any objections or any hands, and so we are adjourned at 5:11.